warm welcome for you to be here. I appreciate that. The gentlemen up here that are in the white shirts joining me up front. First is Superintendent Bryon Massie. He is the OIC, or the officer in charge of the Upper Fraser Valley Regional Detachment, of which Hope and Boston Bar, which this office here services, falls under. So he's the big cheese in the area. And then beside him is Inspector Steve Vrolyk, Management Corporate Services within the UFERD, our newest officer in the RCMP. Just got commissioned, so.
Yeah, I'll do a brief intro because not only am I brand new in the position itself is actually brand new. So as Karol said, Superintendent Bryon Massie is the officer in charge, and it's for the Upper Fraser Valley Regional Detachment. So he has Chilliwack, Boston Bar, Agassiz all under his portfolio. My role that we brought in a new inspector position is to kind of to help from both fronts, help the officer in charge and also help Karol by kind of being that middle layer. Part of my portfolio is overseeing Hope as well as Agassiz, and also the HR and the budget side of the civilian employees, municipal employees, and the public service employees. So it's kind of to help Karol with just that administrative support that he needs on his side, and also kind of help the boss because he has enough stuff coming at him from headquarters in Vancouver to be that middle buffer. So from headquarters, I'm here to help. Is that what he said?
Hi, Steve. Well, let's see. I'll hit the refresh just so I can go through this. RCMP computers, we shut down really quick. Yeah. Oh, and apparently don't turn on at all the times. So, the purpose of tonight obviously came out of that Coffee with a Cop meeting that happened at the Blue Moose a few months ago. And some of the comments and some of the things in regards to the opening and taking forward from there is answers hopefully to questions that came up on that particular date. And if there's still lingering questions, because I know not everybody had an opportunity to communicate that day or converse with one of us that was there. So this is an opportunity for me to take what it was that was provided on that date and feed that back and answer some of the questions. I know there'll be questions I missed, and that's why we have a Q&A at the end, so that whatever it is that I don't provide an answer for, that you're seeking to have or want to raise that question, there's a mic there by all means. That's the whole purpose behind today. If there's questions I can answer, then I will. If it's homework that I got to take away to answer at another time in the imminent future, then that's what will happen as well. So that's pretty much the whole idea of the day. Nothing too shocking for anybody that's here. So I'll start with an overview of our office, because that came up as one of the questions. First I'll deal with coverage area. For those of you that don't, I know you know where the building is, and I know you know the District of Hope. The office, the Hope CPO office, or Community Policing Office, covers a vast territory. And I'm sure that you will understand when I give it to you. We cover, the shortest distance that we have is actually off of Highway 7. We go as far as Ruby Creek. That's the shortest distance we have. We cover down to the U.S. border. To our south, we cover to Manning Park. I call it's Allison Pass, but we just call it the Lodge. So we have Highway 3 out to that area, down to the border, up Highway 5, because we generally use the highways as our terminus points, our description points, where the old toll booths were. For those of you who've been around long enough to know where the toll booths were, just after Falls Lake. Britain Creek is really what we cover up to. Then Merritt takes over, so everything south of that. And then up Highway 1, Hope covers up to Yale. So the Yale Tunnel, that's what Hope covers up to. After the Yale Tunnel, Boston Bar CPO covers. Now, why I mention Boston Bar and their coverage area, because that expands our territory, because we actually provide support and we administer to Boston Bar in our office. Out of our office, we provide administrative support for them. There are officers that are posted to Boston Bar that work specifically with Boston Bar issues, matters, files that come in or calls for service. And they go up to Jackass Mountain, up on Highway 1. So technically we do cover up to Jackass Mountain. And then somewhere in the woods is where we break off somewhere in the east and west. Yes?
Are you telling us this because to say that you don't have enough staff to cover Hope?
Nope, this is just to give you an overview of how big our area is. So, well, good question, but just hold the questions for the Q&A.
Well,
I'll
that's
just run through
to
this.
do with this whole question. Is
Okay.
do you cover this area? Do you cover all the highway for speeding tickets, or just domestic disputes with these areas, or what do you cover in these areas?
There is a traffic unit, Fraser Valley Traffic Services, that covers the highway insofar as enforcement and if there are serious accidents that happen on the highway. We do support them in our area, as if they happen to be working in the Abbotsford area, because their coverage area is to the Port Mann Highway or Port Mann Bridge, to the same areas that we cover here in our area out to the east of us and to the north of us. So they cover that. If they're out to the east or to the west, then we'll support them and go to whatever that call for service is. Because obviously, the person that's involved in an injury accident really doesn't care what car shows up. They're just looking for assistance. And obviously, we're there to provide that. So it's a good question. So that's the coverage area. Okay. The establishment. What I mean by establishment is the police officers that work in the Hope office. As I mentioned in Boston Bar, there are 3 police officers. They are posted to Boston Bar. They reside up in Boston Bar, and that's where they work. They are tied to Hope administratively, and if they need assistance, or we need assistance, we can draw from the resources. In Hope, we have 18 police officers, 13 of which are paid for by you, the District of Hope, Mayor, Council, the Government of Hope. They pay for 13 police officers. The Government of British Columbia, BC, pays for 5. That takes up the 18 members that service the Hope area. That's just a breakdown. That's financial. I won't get into financial costs. I'm sure somebody could break that down for you in regards to costs. That's not my bailiwick in regards to the costs, so won't worry too much about it. Sorry. All right, any questions in regards to that?
That is separate from traffic, right?
Fraser Valley Traffic Services is its own unit, yes.
So you're saying you got 18 officers, which is great. What are the real numbers on the streets? And what I'm saying there is, not including holidays, sick leave, training days, how many at any given time per week?
Well, I can tell you what it's like 3 months from now. To tell you what it's going to be like tomorrow, I can tell you. Beyond that, I can tell you in most cases how many officers are going to be working on a given shift. But there's always vagaries that occur. There is illness. There are injuries. Courses do come up where we send members off to enhance their skill sets that they bring back. There is court. There are a number of issues that I may not be able to answer today. Like today, I can say I'll have 5 members on the road on January 7th.
I think we mean just on the average day.
Just on an average over, say, the last 6
An average
months.
week,
That's what we're asking.
you know, for rotation.
Okay, I got day, week, month. What are we looking for?
A week.
Average.
The average?
Average week.
And the day shift, an average is 5 officers working. Average at night, there's 3 till 3 in the morning. That's the average. That's, yes.
Officers reside here, or are they commuting here? Like, do they?
Is there,
It makes a difference in terms of like, is there ownership over this community? A sense of ownership.
okay, so I will say yes, that regardless of where they live, there's ownership in the community. The members that work here care about the community and they do everything that they can for the community. So regardless if they live here, they live in Chilliwack, or they live in Agassiz, I think the question really is, do they care about the community? And they do.
Question. Just like you said, there's 3 officers that reside in Boston Bar.
Yes.
They stay in Boston Bar and look after. Is
Correct.
there 3 or 4 that look after Hope?
Yes.
Period?
Yes.
Rather than outside?
Well, they cover that area that I
know,
described,
but
yes.
You said like 3 in Boston Bar, that they got 3 in Boston Bar.
They have one, well, they have 3 members that are posted there. There's not 3 members that are working on
Okay,
shift.
okay.
Sorry. Good question. Yes?
So we're paying for 13 officers and we get 5?
No, well, you're paying, no. I can't have all 13 officers. I don't think anybody in the room would expect the officers to work 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So, no, you paid for the 18 police officers you paid for. I do have 18 police officers on staff here. So each one of the positions are filled. And from that, we've got a schedule that we maintain that provides a 24-hour policing service to the community of Hope. And on that, yeah, as per the average, like I said, that's what we have. If we fall below that, then we call people in on overtime as and when necessary. So we do not allow ourselves to go below that minimum. Please.
I really don't think you answered the question. How many officers actually live in Hope?
What difference does that make is going to be my question.
Response
It makes a
time?
big difference, and I
Okay.
think to a lot of members of this.
You asked the question.
Okay, but why? Because I asked why, because I don't live in the community, so I'll just answer, let me answer, and then by all means, I get your question. But I don't live in the community, and I don't think anybody can tell me that I don't care for the community. So I don't see where that question
I
just
think
becomes
she's saying
a
that
fact.
because they might have more pride than the people that live outside the community, even though they care.
No.
So how do you elaborate on that?
Okay, no, please finish off.
Because usually when somebody lives here, they become involved with their children in the schools. That's one thing. And they become involved in other groups within this community. Now, they may all belong to Lions and Rotary, wherever they live, but they're not part of our community. And I know they may care for us, but I don't believe that they should be working, all of them don't need to be here. We need people to live in this community and be part of us.
Okay, I appreciate that. But if the member resides here, it's a longer answer, bear with me. If the member resides here, there is no obligation that a member becomes involved in any sort of service club or anything that's in the community. Because it's their unfettered time off. I have no influence on their unfettered time off. They're like anybody else in this room that's a worker. When you're off work, you're off work. You don't deal with work. So I obviously have the same expectations as the members that are here. If they join service clubs, coach, whatever the case may be, we're involved in the schools already. We do stay involved in the schools, but I can't enforce that. I also do not have, and neither do the gentlemen that are here, have any ability to coerce, have a member reside in a specific community. We don't have that ability to do so. They can reside wherever it is that they want. If they want to travel 2 hours, traveling time in one direction or 4 hours a day, that's their choice. My expectation of that member is that they show up, if their shift starts at 7, they're dressed and good to go to be ready to work at 7. That's what my expectation is. Where they reside is completely up to them. They have, they have family, and the family makes decisions as to where the family resides. So I know that's come up as a question. There's nothing that I can do as the commander of the detachment here. Neither can the OIAC make any sort of decisions in regards to where members reside.
If I may just jump in here, I've been a policeman for 38 years, and it was in 1990 is when it changed. Prior to 1990, and I'll use Hope or Agassiz or a community that I was posted in previously, Chase, or even Chilliwack, when I got to Chilliwack in 1989, the rules were that if you were posted in that community, you had to live in that community. So then very shortly after 1999, there was pushback, and so they changed. They had to change because you had to, again, use Chilliwack as an example. Like right now, I have 122 police officers who work on the city of Chilliwack. They all don't live in Chilliwack. Some live in Mission, some live in Surrey, some live in Abbotsford. And that's just where we live. You go a bit further into the Metro Vancouver area there, it's like, again, we've got police officers that work in Surrey and Langley who live in Chilliwack. So, it's a very valid question. I agree with you that if someone's in the community, they're best a little bit differently it's just the way it is right now. We can't change that.
How many people do you police officers stay in the one area for a long period of time without getting transfers or moves or anything? Like, how many police officers
Well,
are in
I
this
will-
attachment
I will
have
share
been
with
there
you
10
just
years?
as to when we get, we've taken a high percentage of police officers from our training center in Regina. And when they come into the Upper Fraser Valley, whether it's Hope, Agassiz, or Chilliwack, we have a local rule here, staffing rule, that if you're coming in here, we're gonna train you, provide you the skill set for you to get off and start off your new career. We own you for 5 years.
That's right, okay.
We own you for 5 years, you're staying in the community for 5 years, and I will tell you, because we have so many career opportunities within our region, and because we are regionalized, we have the ability to move them from, deploy them from Agassiz or the Hope or the Chilliwack, or any of the specialized units within Chilliwack. We have a lot of them that stay. I will say that when I transferred to Chilliwack in 1989, I stayed there for 16 years.
Well, that's unusual.
Well, it was unusual, and I had a few staffing interviews that I had to bob and weave, but still, and then I left for 10 years, and then I came back. Inspector Vrolyk was there, this is your 3rd time back into the area here, so, but that tells you something, it's a good spot. Good spot to raise your family, the Fraser Valley here, so yeah, it's, it just gets down to the idea that we have our younger officers, and the promotion process, people always want to promote into different roles and that sort of thing, and we have to support that for their interests.
So apparently not. Hey, I'll have to shout. Having worked in our staffing office, the one thing that is a constant in the RCMP is change. We are a national police force, so we're C to C to C. So the opportunities that exist in the RCMP are C to C to C. And what a member starts off their career, if it be here, Surrey, or elsewhere, they may have they develop an interest that goes beyond. So where that takes them, I don't know. Do we have an ownership when they arrive here? If they're new, yes. If they come as what Inspector Vrolyk has done, where a repeat visitor, myself included, I'm a repeat returner to the area, 3 years. We have policies surrounding that. So there's nothing but policy in the RCMP, and I'm sure if you work for the government, you all know about that. So before, just one thing I want to add here, because you see there's a lot of yellow shirts in the area, and it's one of those things I wanted to mention tonight because they go without notice for much of the year, and they deserve all the platitudes that I can give them from my office as our crime prevention, community policing persons that are here in yellow. You can't miss them. It's a very bright color. They're volunteers to the community and provide an assistance to us insofar as any community policing venture that they can manage with the resources that they have and the people that they have. I know in talking to Hans, who's at the back, who's got a table set up, and please by all means, stop by and talk to Hans. They're looking for people to join the Crime Prevention Office. What the Crime Prevention Office was able to do at one point in time was do community patrols in those off hours at night to be the eyes and ears for the members and the community at large. They're looking to get back to that, but obviously they need people to join their group. Again, it's a volunteer aspect. You're going to get the occasional pat on the back from me, and if that's the best that you can get, I apologize, but it's a thankless job that they do, but it is one that's very rewarding, and it is community-based. So if you're talking about giving back to the community, that's what this group does. And by all means, please take time to talk to them. If you have an interest, if there's something that you have thought about, talk to them. Allow them to give you the background in the horse's mouth as to what it is that they offer and what it is that they do for the community. Because everybody's here because they care about the community. They're an extension of that. So, please. Okay, the hands are going again.
If they're out and about and they phone you guys, do you show up?
When they do, yes.
Oh, okay, that's
No different than if people from the community phone for a call for service and there's something that's going on.
No show.
Well, I'm gonna argue that we do. It may not be immediately. Yeah, absolutely. We go on priorities as to what calls that come in, to what we can respond to that's imminent or immediate or not. If there's somebody that's in danger or it's a person, that becomes our priority. We have a priority one call, that's what we go to first. Property goes below a person. And yes, do we take time getting there at times? Absolutely. It happens. I'm not going to stand here in front of you and tell you otherwise. But that's on a case-by-case basis, and it's not the norm. Yes?
What is your averaging or number ratio of trainees to qualified senior officers? How many trainees to how many senior officers?
What we have, I'll try. I think I got what the question is. So it's how many, it's a ratio of senior officers to trainees. Trainees, yes. So what we have, how it works is you come out of, as Superintendent Massie said, you come out of our training branch in Regina. You get posted to detachment. You show up in Hope. Prior to you arriving in Hope, you've already been assigned a trainer who is senior to that member. How much senior it is depends on the nature of the members that are there. But they have to have a minimum of 2 years of service before they can become a trainer. They have to have the support of the supervisor who has to see the work and their abilities to be able to be a trainer. So there's a process before we choose a trainer. There has to be the desire. Because if you don't desire training somebody, then it's going to be a failed relationship right off the get-go. So we have that take place, and then it's a one-on-one. The trainer, the cadet, or the new member, because they stop being cadets when they get their badge. So the new member. So it's a one-on-one relationship. That relationship, they're in car, they're together for 4 months. At the 4-month mark, if we feel that the member, the new member has progressed to a stage to be able to put them out on the road on their own, with still a tether to the trainer, then that's what we'll do. That is on a case-by-case basis and on the abilities demonstrated by the new member. After the 6-month mark, that's your probationary period for being tethered to a trainer. If you've completed all the asset or what's necessary to become a regular member or on-the-road member of the RCMP, then you're cut loose and you're like every other member that's in the RCMP. You still have supervision. There is still an NCO that will supervise your actions and activities and your investigations. So there's always somebody overlooking you, me included.
So how frequently do you do briefings with your members?
Every day, twice.
So what is that, just half an hour, hour?
Oh no, it won't take that long. It's just, so briefings of the members. That's the day when the NCO is coming in the morning. There's usually, you can think about between 6 and 7 is kind of the change in the morning. Same thing in the evening. If there's any pressing matters of the day or the evening that have occurred, things that need to be passed on to the day shift to follow up on, then that happens on a face-to-face, eyeball-to-eyeball conversation. If there's anything that I need to pass on that's outside of that investigative realm from an administrative standpoint to whatever, then I do it upon my arrival at the office. The night is the same thing. Whatever happens during the day, if the night shift team needs to know about it, whatever that may be, then that information is passed on face-to-face.
Do you have any stats, like you say, if I understand you correctly, we're 18 municipal aid employees. Do you have any stats on how often they go off to help Valley Traffic Services for MDAs and stuff, and they're not serving our core community?
I broke down what we were able to do. Good question. I was able to break down the stats for the last 5 years. If you go on the 18 total members in the detachment, 13 of them being paid for by the District of Hope, it works out to roughly, I think it's 72% of the membership within the office is paid for by the District of Hope. It works out to, for the last 5 years, the average has been about 70, 71, or 73% of the calls for service that we attend to are district calls. So we're right on that, right, the actual number is a true reflection of the membership within the office. So I don't break it down, or we haven't broken it down, and I don't know if our statistical people can break it down to each time that we assist Fraser Valley Traffic Services, or they assist us. I don't have that number for you.
So that 28% that were attending, or members are attending MBAs or whatever, that's paid for by the province, are they being back charged for that, or?
The province pays for those members.
Okay.
So the 5 members that are there, the province of British Columbia pays for those members. So they pay for those positions.
Yeah, but
I
what
shouldn't say
about-
members, they pay for the
what about our
positions.
members, the municipal members, the municipal paid members that have attended, are they getting, the province get back charged, or?
No, so I'll jump in for a second. We run what's called a blended shift model. So most communities this side, Merritt, Quinnell, Kamloops, or sorry, not Kamloops so much, Hope, run a blended shift model. You and Chilliwack do it. So we take, District of Hope pays for 15 members. If we told those 15 members that, okay, you don't leave the limits of the town, that's not enough when you work 24/7, give them holidays, work whatever, to actually have 24-hour coverage. You have like one person working a lot of the time. Same with, if we took the 5 that are paid for by the province, and the tax money from the regional district pays for those members. If we said use 5, only do this area, we wouldn't be able to provide 24-hour coverage, so we blend them together. So basically, all 18 members work together as one team. They're scheduled, so we have consistent coverage for the whole area. So 72% of the money for that blended shift model comes from taxpayers within the District of Hope, and the rest comes from outside. And we just check, as Karol said, we look at our call volume to make sure that matches. And as he said, the 5-year average matches that. They spend 72% of the calls are in the municipality, same as where the money comes from, and the others are outside where that funding comes from. So it's just trying to keep it equal. We do check that, yes. Does that make sense?
On that vein, we're talking about staffing. Went back to my question that I was asked at any given time, how many members are on shift? What I was getting at was the people are on holidays, short-term sick leave, long-term sick leave. Are those backfilled, or are they still on the rolls?
It depends on how long they're off sick for. So that's one of my things, is to assist Karol with the HR side of the thing. And when you have an office that is the size of Hope, and it's the same thing with an Agassiz unit office that's small, and you have one person away, you really feel it.
Right.
So we are very aggressive in filling any spots. So if someone is off sick, and it looks like it's gonna be more in a couple of months, we find him another body. And so that
Okay.
you guys aren't short long-term. People do have courses. We have mandatory training we have to do, use of force, other training, mandatory training we have to do. That, Karol works with the existing holidays.
So of those 18 then that are on the rolls, 15 are on duty on any
18.
given time?
No, all 18 positions that are here, I have 18 able-bodied police officers in Hope.
No, I'm talking about boots on the ground, not on holidays, not on training.
Well, I told you
not
that I
on-
can't tell you on a
Every
day-to-day
officer,
basis.
Not a day-to-day,
If
average.
you do the math quickly, every officer, depends on their level of seniority, gets somewhere between 3 and 5 years of service, most 4. So 4 times 18 is, I have no idea. And then courses, so you're probably at any given time, the equivalent of 1.5 members is probably away for some reason. Like I said,
Thank you. That's what I was
we
getting at.
manage that into the shift schedule. It's not like we just leave a gap of 1.5 members all the time. We manage that into the schedule to make sure people get their leave.
The reason I asked is that year before last, there was 6 officers that were away on sick leave. Some were short-term, some were long-term. And I never did get an answer back then if the long-term were backfilled. But I'm happy to hear that they are backfilled.
Yeah, I don't remember 6 being away at the same time, but yeah, the long-term ones, we definitely filled those, yeah. And short-term, we really can't, like, we're a big
year ago, July.
organization, and some things we move a little slowly, so when we know someone's gonna be away for a long time, we definitely get aggressive with the planning and get someone in there. But if it's
Good.
just a short-term thing, we don't have the ability to pop someone in and out really quickly, so we just kind of have to.
Can we
be
go
slow.
back to the agenda, please?
Yes.
If once you finish, because we
Yeah.
are running in circles and just beating on the same issues over and over again.
Yeah, I get it, but the thing is.
I understand. I'm just saying.
We understand that
Yeah.
what is normal for us on a day-to-day basis is completely foreign to you guys, so if we can fill you in a bit, then, and it makes you understand how we work and how our jobs work, we're happy to give you that little bit of information.
Thank you
So,
very much.
But yeah, we definitely don't want to go in circles about the whole thing.
Yeah, if we
I'm
can
sure you don't want to hear
go back
about
to the
resources for
agenda,
the next
then
hour and a half, or
I'll
maybe you do.
appreciate that, please.
So,
Well, the agenda was a Q&A, Steve, so by all means, that's open to the floor, so let's
How
go
about
to
the
questions.
time step and all that?
Yeah, I have that, so, we'll get there. I got till 7:30. I won't forget about it.
Yeah,
I won't
okay.
leave it. I got it up there. I won't leave it. Trust me, I won't leave it.
What is your manpower in court time, being out of the area? How much has it changed since they took the courthouse out of Hope here and moved it to Chilliwack, affecting your scheduling?
It's not as big an effect as one would imagine. Is it an effect? Yes. If you didn't hear, it's how did the move, shutting down the courthouse in Hope, and how has that affected our ability to provide or has it affected our policing service here? Well, obviously I have to say yes, it has. Has it been overly detrimental? No. That decision wasn't mine. That decision was in the province of British Columbia. That happened long before I was here. Neither here nor there. That decision is not going to be reversed, so you hope that it will be, unintended. That's not going to happen. Nothing that I've been told is telling me that the courthouse in Chilliwack or in Hope is going to reopen. So we are like many smaller communities that are throughout BC where we have satellite court where we have to go elsewhere. Fortunately enough for us, it's only 40 minutes away. It's still 40 minutes, and I know that takes an officer out of the area. They schedule court when they do. We attend court when they schedule the court. They don't schedule a court based on a policing schedule. So we attend when it is that we're required to attend. It's no different, and I can add in, because it may come up, and may have been mentioned during the coffee with a cop, it's no different than if we have to if we have somebody in our custody for a mental health issue. The closest facility for mental health is Chilliwack General Hospital. That's where we have to take the individual to. It's not to Fraser Canyon. Fraser Canyon Hospital does not have the facilities for psychiatric care. That person has to go to Chilliwack. So again, we're doing the same thing where we have to go out of area for a service call, or a police service call. Does happen. I know the lady in the back is doing.
Sorry, I'm just noticing your roundabout questions, and I'm noticing that it seems like everybody's concern is a lack of connection or a lack of presence with you guys. And so I'm just wondering, and I know personally I've lived here for a couple of years now, and I have no connection with the police whatsoever. In a small town like this, I mean, I came from Vancouver, I don't expect to have a connection with every cop on the street. But in a small town, I do kind of expect to see some familiar faces or have a connection with the police. How do you guys bridge that, or how do you manage, do you have a plan to be better connected? Because clearly this is what we're asking for, is a better connection, or is that sort of presence?
Well, it's a very good question, and it was about better connection. We recently did a survey, a public survey, and the connection really was predominantly social media. What people were seeking was social media, like Twitter. I'm not a Twitter person, so if I'm saying anything wrong in regards to Twitter, you're part of that universe, I apologize right off the hop. It's not my universe. I don't do Facebook.
I personally am a big part of the community, and
Yeah.
I spend time with volunteer groups and various things, and I still haven't seen you guys around. So, are you guys volunteering? Are you out on the street? Are you connecting with the schools? Like, I'd like to hear more about this.
Well, I'd like to tell you all the committees and groups that I attend. That's a fairly substantial list, but there are a number of them that I do attend. I can't say that I've been at every single one. So the members in the office, obviously, first and foremost, their responsibility is operational calls for service.
For sure.
That's number one.
I'm not saying to take that away.
If you're a kid in a school, I'd hope you know them, because I know that a number of them do reading with youngsters. I know that we go into the schools, so I know that nobody here, well, I saw a couple back there that may be at that age, but we do try building the connections, and I do understand what you're saying. Can we do better? Absolutely. Do I have a plan? It's difficult to come up with a plan again, because my first responsibility is to ensure that we have the able-bodied resources on the road to answer that question, and that they respond to calls for service, first and foremost, because that's.
We're not feeling that, like that, we're just not even feeling that you're responding necessarily to those things. So how are you gonna make us feel safer and more comfortable?
Well, see, I take umbrage to that, because I think that we're doing as effective job as we possibly can, and the members in the office work extremely hard at the jobs that they do. So I
don't
disagree with that comment.
I'm not saying that you're not,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that that feeling is that you're not.
We're hearing
Well,
and
then
feeling.
the feeling just becomes a reality, and my ability to change perception may be difficult.
I like the question. I was at a motel in Hope a little over 2 weeks ago. One of the ladies, the receptionist, she booked someone here that sells drugs. And when they came in, we didn't know until they had people going up and down. And 2 of them came in the front door, and my boss is in her late 70s, early 80s. And they walked up to her, and 2 guys and a woman's boyfriend, and threatened her, and came in her face, and we were pretty nervous. So I said, I'm gonna go home and phone the cops. She said, go do that. So I came home, I phoned you guys, and I got 25 questions. I said, look, when you show up at the motel, I will answer all your questions. I'm worried about my boss. I had to run home because I got off and let my dogs out and then go back because I was worried about my boss. Up to this day, not one police officer has showed up. Not one.
I guess that's the concern we're talking about
That's
in
the
general.
concern we have here.
You know, is something like that
Is
happens.
that what you mean about
nobody
you
shows
waiting
up.
in time for something, or?
So, I guess that's what we want to know is answers for that reason, the safety part of that,
Yeah.
and other things.
Oh, and, excuse me, when I phoned, he said to me, what are they, friends of yours?
Anyways, let him answer, let him
Like,
answer.
we're paying for the attitude too? Like, really?
Okay. Now, one, I think you and I need to have a one-on-one discussion, because this is not a group discussion.
Yes, it is a group
It's not a
discussion,
group
because
discussion,
there's-
man.
I'm
Is
not
there
the
something that
only
I need to find out?
one that has problems, and the cops haven't shown up.
He
Okay,
just wants to do a general assessment of everything. He can have a one-on-one
This
with
is
that.
a real
with
good
that
time
one,
for an
yes.
assessment.
so let's have that discussion about that.
Oh, I did phone, and he never showed up
No,
to
but
have
you
a
can have it with him.
discussion.
We had the same problem, we phoned and nobody came.
Exactly.
From 3 years ago.
That's why we don't feel connected.
Okay.
There's so much stuff going on here in this town that you guys have no,
What are we paying?
you're around, but, you
It'd be
know,
nice
nothing
if somebody
happening.
were living here and had a
Feel
sense
safe
of
with
community.
So what do we have to do? I guess that's what we want here.
Well, okay, I'm getting a lot of different statements. What do you have to do is what people are doing now. We respond to calls for service, and I'm sorry that 3 years ago someone didn't respond to whatever your complaint was, and the complaint from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I will talk to you offline. We can talk about this. I need more discussions with you. The initial call for
Discussion what?
service.
That's
Hold on,
exactly
now
what
I'm
happened.
now you've given me the opportunity to speak. Now it's my turn. We can do it by conversation, because if you're going to talk down, then I'm not going to be able to give you the answer at all. So when you call, that goes to a dispatcher. I'm not telling people that dispatchers are different than us, but there's a dispatcher. They have to ask the questions that are necessary that we
I
would
phoned
ask.
him back when I got to work and
Okay,
answered the
now I'm
message.
not able to give my answer again. You and I will talk later, and that way then you can talk
That's an
and
easy
interrupt
way to
anytime
do
you
it.
want.
They would not showing up.
But honestly, Karol gets paid the big bucks for a reason. If you call the police for anything and you're not happy with the response, we really, really want you to give the office a call the next day and say, hey, this is what happened last night, and we will look into it. We have a lot of hardworking men and women that are police officers, and none of us are gonna put up our hand and say we're perfect. So if there's ways we can do better, we want to do better, but we have to know about it. So hearing about it in this forum doesn't help. I mean,
Isn't
it
that
helps
what
bring
this
awareness,
meeting
but
is
we need
about, is to bring
specifics,
up
so
things like this?
would love to have a discussion with you after and get specifics, so we can look at that specific situation and deal with that, and hopefully, if there was an issue, figure out where the communication broke down, so it doesn't happen again to the next person in this room. Absolutely, so if you do that, that'll help us with that process. So our goal is to not have situations where you feel the police didn't do what they were expected to do.
Great.
Sir, I'm gonna go around to people who haven't had an opportunity yet. I'm not gonna avoid.
Different issue.
Okay, I think most of us are here not to find out about your infrastructure. We want to know that it seems that recently in Hope, the break-in entries and things like this have had a sharp increase. And I'm wondering, how does that stack up with other communities? Is it worse here than other places?
Mission is worse.
I don't know, this is in regards to break and enters, for those of you that are sitting somewhere in the back, you didn't hear it, it's in regards to break and enters, and is it the problem in Hope worse than it is or better than it is in other communities in BC? Simple answer is I don't know. I don't concentrate on the stats that are in Vancouver, Surrey, Kamloops, anywhere else. My focus and my concern is the community of which I place, and I'm here. So that's where my focus is.
So I want to just continue on and just give you my opinion. Now, a motorist going through a stop sign, he gets fined, let's say, $178. You catch a homeless person breaking into a car, you arrest him, take him to the court. He's out the next day because he's had legal aid. If he knows the right people, he gets a free TELUS phone so he can stay in contact with family, and he can even pick up a new tent on the way out. So there seems to be no deterrent for thieves, only for motorists, the rolling cash cow. I mean, am I wrong? This is what I'm seeing.
Well, you said it's your opinion, and everybody has opinions.
Yes.
So I'm not going to be here to change your opinion. What you're talking about is a court process,
Yes.
and that's not my bailiwick. That's not in my ability to change. They're independent of the police. So when decisions come from the courts, that's for them to answer. I can't answer that. We do the best job that we can, and we bring people before court to stand charged for what it is that they've done. The decisions that are rendered in court are the decisions that are rendered in court. I can tell you through 29 years of doing this job, there's been many a time where I'm not happy with the sentence that's been granted, but that's not, I can't control that. So it's a good question, but it's not one that I can answer in regards to any sentencing.
Fair enough.
Sir.
Yeah, this is my first meeting, and we have concerns, and I'd like to know when we can go on the mic.
Oh, by all means.
Now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Is it
Turned on.
Is it on? Okay, my concern is I live in Flood. I go by the name Eagle, and I live right next door to Government Garage. I've seen those people come down my road, literally swerved me and my dog. I threatened them, but police come knock on my door next day, asking if I was going to follow through. I said, what? He said, it was a threat. I left on their sheet. I said, no, I'm not. But I'm kind of frustrated. This thing is, these guys are making money. I've seen them before they got off the ground. As far as I'm concerned, they're not, everybody thinks it's industrial, but here we are living next door, it's residential. So I've been to the police, I have a case file on them for them coming with their vehicles. All I want to do, I felt like just telling them, I just want to grab some heads and start slapping them. Common sense.
Sorry, excuse me, can I ask who you're referring to? Is this a business? You mentioned.
Yeah.
commercial.
There's probably some workers here.
What's that?
You phone their hotline. It says they start work at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 days a week. They go from 5 till 4 p.m. As we're speaking now, they're working. So they bumped up another shift. The bylaws are from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. But they're trying to get away with having industrial. I got a piece of paper here that they bought that one parking lot, public road. That's what kind of money they have. They're buying farms up around me. Unfortunately, ours is not for sale. It's too much. But I have to reside there. I've been there 6 years. It's just not getting any better. I'm not the bad one. I'm a bad man, but it's just frustrating. And now I got to put eyes in the back of my head. These people just don't care. It's not about the community anymore. It's just about them. Mighty dollar. As far as I'm concerned, marijuana, as far as it being medical, it's not. I don't do it. I don't even do alcohol. It's been 30 years for me. But that was my choice. I just don't know what to do with it at this point.
Well, insofar as the business, sir, if I take that end of it,
Yeah.
the business is legal. They
Exactly.
fall under all the laws. There's nothing that anybody as long as they follow the laws of the country, which they do, and as long as they follow whatever the laws of the community are, or the bylaws, which I believe they are, then they are an operating business. They have an operating business license, and they're treated no different than any other business that's in the community or across the province.
But what about the public on the road?
That's another issue altogether. And obviously, when we're able to, or we can do enforcement in the area, then that's what we'll do.
What was the road?
Yale Road?
Yale Road?
Yeah, it's North Row Road.
I know what we're talking
Cano
about.
Farms.
We do have an active complaint in regards to that, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Thank
it's
you.
not only me, it's other community, the other farmers too. I mean, it's bad, I find it to be unsafe. That was my only concern, coming here. I
Thank
gotta
you.
voice that.
Well, appreciate that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. One more, and then I'm going to get to the crime stats, because Steve is going to get me back on track.
All right.
Don't worry about it.
Concerning, you mentioned media, and you're not a Facebook or Twitter guy. Does anybody monitor Facebook? And if they're not, they should. Reason I'm asking is, minute by minute, they're reporting, as it happens, crimes, right? And I can respect, and that's what my whole question with staffing was, that there's a triage that you have to go through for priority calls. And being that we do help other areas with armed robberies, who knows, whatever horrible things are happening, property crimes take a back seat. But it's still there and the names, places, times, all that information is there to be acted on eventually. Now, the people that are on Facebook aren't necessarily the ones who are going to come to your office and swear a complaint. But we all know, anybody who wants to know, where the people that steal stuff are fencing it, where the people that are dealing drugs get their stuff. We have neighbors that are taking it unto themselves to go and get their stolen property back, which is incredibly dangerous. Is anybody monitoring that, and is there ever any follow-up?
No, we don't monitor Facebook. That'll be the first, I'll get that right out of the way. We don't monitor. Is there a plan? I think they have talked about online reporting in other communities.
We're coming to that, the online reporting component, and it's in trial basis in a couple of detachments in the province here. But just speaking to Facebook and social media, I don't know if just in the news yesterday to today that RCMP nationally are reviewing the social platforms that we have out there, have access to. And there's some social platforms, I'll use Facebook as an example, is the RCMP has a Facebook site that people can go to. That is not monitored. It specifically states on there, please don't report anything that requires a 911 response on here because it's not monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And in a perfect world, wow, could you imagine how many people we could hire to put in and monitoring all the different social platforms? But who would have to pay for that? And you know, it gets to a point that because and it changes daily, weekly, how these different platforms work. And you know, it's there are different ones out there. I'll just speak to one that I know of because my wife is on all that. Chilliwack Beware, and you know, there's all sorts of comments and things that are posted on there. And I think there's a guy in downtown Chilliwack by the Chilliwack Senior Secondary School. He's got more cameras on his property than I think that probably the whole town of Hope has altogether. And you get different views of different things that are going on in the corner of Rotary and I think it's Williams. And you know, and you see some of the stuff on there, and you know, there's lots going on in the community. I have no doubt. And do we know it all? No, we don't. And this is kind of the thing that bringing people in the community in and talking to us and letting us know if nobody showed up, holy crap, we need to know about that because that's wrong. That's wrong, and we need to know about it the day it happens, and so we can address it at that point in time. I'll give you an example. In Chilliwack, like I said, we've got 122 police officers are broken up into 4 shifts, and at any given time we'll have 15 officers, uniform officers responding to call, and includes the supervisors. So someone from one of the communities phones in that we provide a service to there and makes the complaint about a suspicious person walking around the community wearing a mask. And you know, like that's pretty concerning at night, and you wonder what the heck's going on. You know how long it took for that to be dispatched to a police officer? 4 hours. And it's like, okay, that's not acceptable. So we, you know, they complained to us the next day, like, where the heck were you? And so we found out it wasn't us. We could have attended right away because that requires immediate attendance. It was someone in our dispatcher area that didn't dispatch it properly. So, but the fact that we found that out, we were able to correct that. But you know, we don't know what we don't know until we know it, and that's important stuff. And again, thank you for sharing that because staff writer needs to be aware of that. If there's a gap there, let's fix that gap for sure. That's important stuff.
So I'll speak briefly to that Facebook thing. So we have a regional detachment model, as I'm sure you're aware. That's why the officer in charge was the whole thing. We have 1 crime analyst in Chilliwack. We're adding a 2nd position in Chilliwack, and they do also provide support to Hope and to Agassiz, and not just Chilliwack. So the analysts do monitor some of those social media sites. So I'd love for you to get the name of that specific site from you after, and we'll see if we can add that to the list if we're not already monitoring it. What people say on Facebook and what we can use and prove in court are usually about this far apart. So that's the thing that we have is we may know about a house where something is going on or a hotel room where something is going on, but unless there's immediate danger to life and limb, we can't really action it until we have the grounds to do so, the legal authority. And it's a pretty high mountain to climb, and it's the way it is. I mean, the reality is our system in Canada is designed so that innocent people don't get arrested for things they didn't do. And the only way we can do that is to make sure that we really have to have a lot of evidence and a lot of grounds to go after the people who did do what they do. So that's just the way it works. But yeah, I'd love to get the name of that Facebook site from you after, and we can put that on the list. So we're gonna Carl's gonna get into the statistics here, just because we may be talking about stuff that he's gonna answer already, and then once he kind of gets through the agenda, we'll go back to the Q&A for sure. And if some of us need to hang around longer for specific individual questions, we'll be happy to do that. So.
Not avoiding everybody, but just based on the fact that this is
I'll look after that.
disappear pretty quick. All right, well, there we got some. That's being taken care of. All right, so As Steve mentioned, we have a crime analyst position, and the crime analyst, this is what the crime analyst puts together. One of the things, they have a lot of different things that they can do and put together in regards to intelligence-led policing is what we kind of refer to it as. So, I don't know if you can read that. I'm hoping you can, and if you can't, we made it colorful, but
The band is bigger.
yeah, go ahead. I don't have my reading glasses on either, so. This is for Hope, and what they include is Boston Bar, but the numbers that are coming out of Boston Bar are not going to be change the stats or the dynamics too much, because obviously the calls for service in Boston Bar are dwarfed by the calls for service in Hope. Much the same as we're not including Chilliwack, because we don't have the calls for service that they do in Chilliwack. All right, well, now you can try to fit it all on one page. I'm not a techie. I said that right at the get-go. So I'd like to say I can apologize for that, but I'm not a techie. So this is, we get together on a monthly basis. We have what are called ComStat meetings. And that's all the unit heads within the Upper Fraser Valley Regional Detachment get together. Our analyst goes, okay, here's what's going on. Obviously, the analyst, if there's something that is pressing and they see that there are issues that are within an area, they can contact us and they can get us focused. Generally, in Hope, because of the size of the community, referencing that, we know where it is that the issues are and where it is that will take us. Much what Steve said, there's this wonderful thing called evidence that we have to collect before we're able to either obtain a warrant, if it's necessary, or process a charge. If we don't have the evidence to process a charge, we can't do it. It's just as simple as that, and we have to reach that level that's required. Okay, I swear they were up there just one. I just I worked with a pen and paper when I first started 29 years ago. We didn't have computers and cars. What's that? Okay, so it's going to be a little harder for you to see the numbers, but as you go across, you can see in the caption by month what it is that the crimes reported that we have taken in. This does not include anything that's reported on any other site. These are calls for service that have arrived to the police. Either they phoned the Hope office and been sent to dispatch, or they've called 911. Whatever which way they've done it, they've talked to a dispatcher. We create a call for service. So right now, I think we're at we're up in, I think it's what, 49,000 for the year. That's including Chilliwack. That's the entire Upper Fraser Valley Regional Detachment. That's not Hope. You can breathe again. So you can see the crime type to your left, what it is, and we break them down into different crime types. So you got crimes against the person, so you can see month by month what it is. They have a 6-month average, and then the latest month, which I have, is September, and what we had in 2018 and what's in 2019. So there's our comparator that we have. So crimes against the person, obviously that's assault or something of the like. We've seen a 34% increase, and that happening from 2018 to 2019 over the same time period. So as opposed to going through each, you can read each one. It's the same thing. You see it's a 23% increase in property crime. That will include your B&Es, that will include your thefts from vehicle, anything that deals with property, shoplifting, theft of bicycle. We break them down, but for statistical purposes, we can break it down further, but it's property crime. So we have seen an increase in property crime from 632 files last year at this time to 776. Yes, those are reported crimes. And I'm going to be very careful to say that because people have this image that there's a lot more going on in the community than what we're told about. I can only act on what I'm told. I think everybody can understand that. If I don't know about it, I'm not told about it, there's very little I can do about it. So, other criminal code, just kind of a catch-all between after property crime and crimes against the person. We've seen, and it's in yellow just because of the number that is raised. That's only, that's a 7% increase. And then controlled drugs. Generally, those are calls that we end up seizing drugs. There's not that many calls that come in any longer in regards to drugs. Traffic. Once we saw marijuana legalized, we saw a huge drop in the reporting of crimes in regards to drugs. That's just fact.
So just, Karol, I can just jump in here for a second. Are there any mathematicians in the room? Anybody that's really good in math? Okay, so now what happened is that January the 1st, 2019. Prior to that, we had, when you do your statistical gathering and calculating, we had 3 categories that they would put our files in. If you called the police, it would be either founded, which means it took place, unfounded, which means it didn't take place, or unsubstantiated. We have the 3 categories. So now unsubstantiated means that, yeah, we couldn't find anything to support that it didn't take place or that it did take place. So we had the 3 categories. As of January 1st, 2019, they eliminated one of those, and I say they, and Stats Canada eliminated one of those categories, the unfounded category. So now we only have 2. We have the founded or unfounded. So if we get a call comes into the police office, just said, hey, there's someone in the corner of Williams and Yale wearing a blue shirt and a black hat and carrying a black backpack, and they're selling drugs. We go out, the police go out to investigate that. When they get there, they're gone. So can we say that they were there or weren't there? It's categorized as, because it was reported, someone took the time to report it, it's categorized as founded. So before we would say that that's unsubstantiated because we couldn't prove that it was founded or unfounded, we just couldn't substantiate it. But they've eliminated that category. So again, it gets a little confusing, and that's why I say for your mathematician. So the fact that we eliminated that one scoring category, statistical gathering category, that stat had to go somewhere else. So now they did an analysis just as to what was the percentage of files that we were putting in that other category, and it was 15%. And that was kind of, they did that kind of taking into consideration the entire lower mainland, and that included some of the bigger detachments. But overall, it was 15% of the categories that were in unsubstantiated. So now everybody across Canada, BC, everybody's files are going up because of only those 2 categories here as a result of 2019. So again, some of the anomalies that show up, breakdown for trafficking, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's further down.
And you'll see that, and it gets down just as it goes into the founded or the unfounded. If we cannot prove that it didn't take place, guess where it gets parked? In the founded that it took place. Does that make sense?
So did it affect your?
Yeah, so provincially, violent crime as reported, provincially it went up 45%. So the fact that you guys only went up 38%, you actually went down. Does that make sense? So if we got a call in 2018, if we got a call saying there's 2 guys, they're standing in front of the Loose Moose and one of them just punched the other one, and we drove by and there was nobody there, in 2018 we would have said there was no assault. We can't prove it ever happened. With the new scoring rules, we can't do that. We have to say, okay, it was an assault, we just couldn't find anybody, so we weren't able to solve it, so that is now scored as an assault. So violent crime statistics, and this is Canada-wide, not just us, has gone up 45%. Your stats have gone up 38% to hope. So as weird as it sounds, your violent crime is actually down from last year. So we're the same or slightly down. Pardon?
Isn't our province smaller though, across Canada? Like if provincially it's gone up 45% and we're 38, aren't we?
The average has gone up 45%. Some are higher, some are lower. The average is 45%. So the fact that you guys are only up in the 30s means that comparatively you're probably the same as last year, if not lower, in terms of what actually happened, if that makes sense. I know it's a little convoluted, but these are the rules we play with when you work for the federal government. So.
Okay, continuing on, thank you. So continuing on, so general occurrences, those are calls for service. We're up 11% from last year. You can see the numbers, and I don't need to reiterate that. If it's yellow, that just it falls into a bandwidth. If it's red, if all of that means it's just in a different bandwidth for reporting purposes. Priority 1 calls, how I determine that is we need a cop here now. They're down 2%. File per member, so each member of the office, so each of the 18 members, because that's how they distribute it, is they've gone up 11% in their workload from last year. Street checks, that's if we encounter somebody on the road and we document that conversation, that meeting, that's called a street check. We have to be very careful about street checks. There is policy, or there's laws now that have come out of Ontario in regards to doing that, because in some instances they consider it profiling. So we have to be very careful about how we approach speaking to people on the street. So when you talk about the rules that we have to follow, those are some of the rules that we have to follow.
So again, another God love federal government thing, street checks. So you probably heard this on the news. In the States, they call it carding. And there's a real concern in larger cities about profiling people. So we as police officers have the ability to go talk to anybody anytime. We can walk down the street and say, hi, how you doing? What's going on today? If we ask you your name and we don't have the legal authority to ask your name, you don't have to tell us your name. When we find people and we get their names, their information, we create what's called a street check file. That's where that comes. We literally check somebody on the street. We create a file. So that is down 56%. One of the reasons is they looked at it and they said, okay, we don't want to be profiling people. So in order to do that, where you get someone's information and you actually put it into your system saying this person was at this spot at this specific time, they have to be in a high crime area. They have to match someone, the description of someone who committed a crime, or it has to be a problem area or a known criminal, that sort of thing. Like there's parameters we have to meet to put them there. So we still talk to lots of people on the street, but to actually create that street check where we can say is down. So the way we compensate for that is our known offenders. We ask for curfews. We ask the courts, please put a curfew on Billy so that he can't go out at 10 after night and go break into houses. So if we are restricted in legally what we're allowed to do, we're going to fall within the law. We have less street checks. We have more curfew checks. So we're still checking on these people to make sure, keep an eye on them the best we can.
Thanks, Steve. So yes, then the curfew checks, as you see, they've increased. So that's a court-ordered condition that's placed upon an individual based on something that they've done. And they're bound by a curfew where they have to be in their residence or some location that has been agreed to by the courts or probation. And we physically go knock on that door and go check them. Be it at 2 in the morning if they have to be there, be it at 6 at night, whatever the time frame is where they have to be at home, we go and physically check to make sure that they're there. So that's a curfew check. We're doing a follow-up and ensuring that they're abiding by the conditions set by the courts. And if they're not, then there is additional charges of a breach of a condition that they have. Prisoners. So my cells have been a little busier this year. So we're up 40%. That's people for whatever reason that they come into our custody. Be it they have been arrested for whatever the criminal offense is, and they have been lodged in cells. So our prisoner count is up from last year. Charges, we're down 1. 1 charge from last year. So pretty much staying the course. Firearms seized. That's obviously a concerning issue for anybody in a community. I know there's law-abiding people that are hunters out here, and you're not the ones that we're seizing firearms from, so that's not really a concern for you, but we're up 21%. So that's 86 firearms that we have. Now, some of those firearms we have are as a result of what we had as Save for Cities. This is a gap that happened between what used to exist. I'm not a firearms guy, so anybody that's in that world, you're going to explain this far better than me. The system that used to exist and the new system, there was a gap in there where we had to track firearms and try finding them. And we tried to try finding firearms from the 1930s. That's how far back some of these files went. So we're doing generational checks now to try locating these firearms, just to find out where there are. So, and we end up seizing them if somebody has to get update their, what is it, PAL, Core, whatever it is, that, again, not a firearms guy, but they have to get updated so that they can legally possess a firearm. SBOR, not really an issue for you. That's a reporting mechanism for us if we come in contact with an individual and there is there's a get-together, a scrum, there's actual physical contact with an individual. We have a requirement to report, and it's called subject behavior officer response. It's an obligation that the officers have to perform for not handcuffing, but anything that goes beyond that, if they had to use their OC spray, any other forced intervention option where there was that violence, so to speak, that took place, then they have to provide a report to do that. So again, that's not really anything that germane to anybody. Compliments, well, we had one, and we really haven't increased any. We're there. Complaints, well, so again, for the focus of, and people being, I get the frustrations, and it's a totality of a number of different issues. We are at the forefront of it. I get it, because we're the ones that are out there predominantly. So I understand that. But even in that, we have only had 7 complaints against members in Hope this year. It's the same that we had last year. Now, would I like that number to be 0? Absolutely. Do I understand that we're humans and we have bad days? Yes, I do. Do I understand that we may say things that are unprofessional and we shouldn't have said them? Yes. Is that where the 7 comes from? Yes. Can we do better? Absolutely. We got 7. But in the totality of the year, 7 is a good number for me to work with to get lower. I'm glad there's no 0 behind that. So
just to kind of give you a bit of context there too, for the entire area of the Upper Fraser Valley regional area, Chilliwack, Anstey, Hope, Boston Bar, this year to date, we've had 26. So, and again, previous in 2018, we had 38. So, you know, those are all investigated. We have 2 sergeants that work regionally that will investigate those complaints when they come in, because we treat them seriously. We have to find out what went wrong, and we need to fix it. And so again, they've been quite high in the past, and we have our 2 sergeants, when they're not investigating the complaints, they're talking to our officers and saying, hey, there's a better way of doing things, a better way of approaching people, a better way of listening. That's kind of, and just as to, let's stop with the complaints. That's try to reduce those numbers of complaints. Sometimes you can do that, like just, hey, let's sit and have a conversation. What went wrong? And it's not to say that, you know, again, we're not perfect. And we don't know what we don't know until we know it. So, but again, just put it into context there, because we do get some complaints, and hey, example I gave you, hey, why didn't you guys show up? This guy walking around with a mask in the neighborhood in the dark, scaring people, like that's not right. It was well before Halloween. So again, why didn't you show up? Well, we didn't know about it because something happened somewhere else down the road. So.
Okay. We're saving the best for last, because everybody wants to know about property crime. Let me just get through this, and then we'll. So, again, crimes against the persons, as globally, as you heard at the start of this, we were up 30-some-odd%. Again, some of that's reflective of the changes that took place nationally from statistics gathering and how it is that we look at crime types or our investigations now and how they're scored. So a lot of the numbers, we know we were going to see an increase this year based on that change. We're now interested to see from this year to next year, because then it's going to be apples compared to apples as opposed to apples and oranges, is where we're at now. So if you look at the crime comparison, so with soap, that's usually the one-on-one. We've had a little bit of a fisticuff. We're up 44%. You can see the numbers. I'm not, yes, weapons offense is up 300%. Again, some of that is reflective in the scoring and how the call was provided. And that's how, when the call is provided, we have it on first line scoring. Again, something that takes place in the background. That's the number. So that, if you look at the number, yes, it's 300%, and that's a massive number, but if you look at the numbers beside it, it says 8 calls for service. So it's not a massive amount of calls. Do I want to see 0? under weapons offenses? Absolutely. I think everybody in the room would want to see that. But when I look at 8, I don't, it's not going to, it's something that I'm going to be concerned with, yes, but it's not an abundance. It's not like people are running roughshod around town with bats and guns and going hog wild. That's not happening. So the crimes again, oh there, 34%. And then the final one, we just finished up with the purple lights over the month of October. So domestic violence is always a concerning category for any community, no different here than anywhere else. And we've seen a 15% drop in domestic violence. The scoring of that hasn't changed. So that's a good thing for us. That's 47 more files this year than I would want. To have to investigate, that's 47 people that have been affected immensely in their lives. But again, so we see that number has trended down. Can that change? Absolutely. And then probably the number everybody was curious to see anyways, because that's always on the top of everybody's mind, property crime. So, we had 13 arsons last year. Arson is kind of a wide-body term. It doesn't involve the fact that a house gets burnt. That could be somebody that's lighting something on fire in the corner, a matchbook inside one of the washrooms in town. It constitutes an arson. Falls underneath that. We've seen a decrease in files. Auto theft. That's up. I'd like to tell you that that number, we'd like it to be down. Every number that's there, I want to see down. Auto theft is up. Bike theft, I don't think that was a category that we had the previous years. We've included bike theft. So we've had 18 bike thefts. I'm probably thinking that number's higher and that hasn't been reported. But we have 18 reports of bike theft in this community. Maybe it's higher, maybe it's not, but that's the number. Break and enter business, that's a high number. That's extremely high. It's not a number I like. We've arrested people for these offenses. Do we get property back? Occasionally. I can't shine that one up any more than what it is. If the evidence exists to lay a charge, to execute a search warrant, we've arrested somebody recently who we have tied to 13 B&Es. We're not going to be able to lay charges in 11 of them at this point in time. We don't have the evidence to support it. We can't provide the evidence to support the charge, and the charge can't go forward to Crown. We've got 2 charges and other charges that stem from that, but that's our reality. We have to have the evidence. So that's where we're at. Break and enter other, that's sheds, outbuildings of some sort. That number is at 40, so that's big. So if you've lost tools, and I know I don't want to pick on anybody specific. I don't know. No, is he gone? Okay, he's gone. Good. That kind of rubs salt in this wound, and I don't want to do that. That's usually your tools, lawn, whatever from that bailiwick. That's usually what gets stolen. And then break and enter residence. The concerning one, because that's people at home. Or people's homes. They've invaded your personal space. We've had a 4-file increase from last year. Now, the disconcerting portion of that is obviously we've had 30 of those. What's disconcerting to me is that we arrested somebody yesterday for a B&E. They were in the house with a wife and children, and that person did not want charges laid. We've subsequently changed that. We've reversed that attitude, but that was the first premise. So while there's a crime that's committed, there is somebody, we've had an instance where somebody said, I do not want to pursue charges. We listen to that. We have little choice because that person's required in a court process. And if that person's not willing to partake in the court process, then they cannot lay the charge, because they don't have the evidence to prosecute that offense. So we've had a change, probably because they got broken into again last night. the very same people. So that person is now in custody. Whether he stays in custody or not is not my decision. It's none of the decision of the members that are sitting here. We request it, but that is the decision made by a judge in the courts. I can't say anything more about that. It's what police work does. Frauds, that's money. Someone's, sorry for my lack of English, cruise you out of money. That's the whole, hey, who else has been told they've been under arrest other than me by Service Canada? Did anybody else get that phone call? I had to arrest myself yesterday because I was told. That's an attempt at a fraud. That's defrauding you as an individual or a group of money. And it's generally securities or money that they're trying to get. So that while it may be out of country, it obviously is occurring here. It's a bigger issue, potentially, but that's what the fraud is. And then mischief, that's damage. Someone's breaking your window, keyed your, I don't know, car, I think that probably fits. Yeah, graffiti. That's a mischief. Our office suffered mischief. Someone broke the window to my office. I tried calling it an assassination attempt. No one saw the humor in that. So, but that's what it is. I don't want to make light of it because somebody obviously has had their property damaged. So that's what a mischief to property is. So yes, those numbers, the numbers are higher. We're being as effective as we can to lay the charge. But when we have a person that's committed multiple, and 2 people recently we put in custody for multiple break and enters, they're going to stand in the courts. What the outcome's going to be, I don't know. I don't have that crystal ball. And frankly, I know that it may come off as cold. I don't think about it because I have to move on to the next issue that's in front of me or what I see coming up in the days and the weeks and months ahead. I can't control the courts. I know I keep bringing them up, and it's not me on a stump. It's just a reality to provide you that some aspects of it are out of our control. So, that to be said, there are, Steve, that is the bottom of the slide, so I did get it in. Go, Steve.
Okay, so two questions. First question is for the business break and enter.
Yeah.
There are 11 charges that you say couldn't collect any evidence.
At this time, correct.
So
Not any, enough to satisfy the
So what can
courts.
business do to protect the business in order to help the RCMP be able to gather the evidence, or to help you do the job better, so that you can put that into the legal process a little bit quicker?
Cameras? Maybe I'm not understanding the question, Steve. I'm sorry. Well, I think most of the businesses in town have surveillance equipment or camera equipment, so we utilize that. We utilize what images that we can. We use images from other businesses to solve B&Es that happen to another business, whatever we can collect. That may not be the be-all, end-all. We have physical evidence, as in what DNA and or fingerprints that are left, if that is something that we're able to collect. We do have admissions, and we do have witnesses. All those are part and parcel with the evidence that is collected, that if we have enough that's there that satisfies the needs of the court, and we know what those needs are, and we work with Crown Counsel in regards to what it is that the test within court to satisfy a charge being laid, then that's the evidence we collect. I think what the businesses do here is enough. While they do have what is necessary for a portion of it, but there are more steps behind there that a business doesn't control.
A couple things though, that advice I would give to a business: if you're going to invest in a video camera system, have a look and see how good the video is, because a blurry face running by is not something we use in court. So if you're going to spend the money as a business to invest in a camera system, make sure it's decent quality. And the second one is, if you own a business and someone does break in or cause damage, if at all possible, call us and have us come before you clean up, because you may inadvertently clean away some physical evidence that may help us later in court. If if they cut themselves or the fingerprint somewhere, that's stuff we can look at collecting. But if you've already cleaned up, we've kind of lost that opportunity.
Does that apply for residents as well?
Pardon?
Would you recommend that for residents?
Exactly, yeah, pretty much the same thing for residents. I mean, and more and more people are getting doorbell cameras and they're dirt cheap, and Black Friday's coming up. I'm not pushing anyone's company, but stuff like that is out there. And yeah, same thing, if someone breaks into your residence or causes damage, if you could not clean it up till we get there. And sometimes that's not possible, especially for a business, or if cars are hard to get fingerprints from. We don't often fingerprint cars. If we recover a stolen car, we will fingerprint it. But if someone just breaks into your car, we probably won't, because the car manufacturers have done a very good job over the years in making your car not look dirty. Even though your car is dirty, you go inside, it doesn't really look dirty, and that's because they got all these nice pebbled surfaces that don't hold any fingerprints. So cars, we generally don't even try unless it's recovered stolen. But yeah, properties, businesses, if you can wait to clean it up till we get there, that helps us have an ability to see what's there and potentially collect physical evidence, which we don't always get. But it's a little piece of the puzzle that if we can, helps us with charges, that's for sure.
So that comes to the second part of the question. So what are some of the recommendations that RCMP will give to business to protect their property? For example, alarm system. You mentioned about surveillance, which is a good thing, but how about alarm system, or is there any other things that business can do to protect themselves before anything happens?
Well, there are businesses in town, because I know that that has been done, or elsewhere, where they're using another layer inside their doorway on top of an alarm, be it a roll-down gate, be it bars. I know that these are expenses for business, and I know you have to weigh that against what your income is in regards to that. But that's a personal decision in regards to fortifying. I don't want to make it sound that harsh, but obviously fortifying your business so that it doesn't have that easy entrance and exit aspect for a criminal.
Yeah, so and if your volunteers at the back don't have material on that, we'll make sure that our crime prevention office at Chilliwack gets some material to you guys in Hope. But there are things that businesses can do. We have people trained in Chilliwack that would be happy to help train somebody, one of your volunteers in Hope, what we call crime prevention through environmental design. If you have a business, don't have a really big tree out front or a bush that someone could hide behind and get in and not see it. If you have a storefront, if you turn the lights off and have a bunch of stickers and posters in your window, if we're driving by on the street and someone's inside, we're probably not going to see them. Little thing like, ideally, we get people don't have a lot of money to spend because they're trying to make a living. You may not be able to afford a roll down door, but maybe you can afford a transparent sheet that you put on your window, so if you break the glass, it doesn't actually shatter and come out. Leaving the lights on inside, motion detector lights from the outside, not blocking all your windows with stickers so anyone driving by can see inside. Little things like that do help target harder for sure. So like I said, if your volunteers, if they don't have information, we'll make sure that we get some from Chilliwack, where I know they do, and get some information to your local volunteers about stuff like that.
You can also, like, very cheaply buy an engraver, and you can engrave stuff and photograph it, right? Like, you guys would take that as you would probably...
Yeah, the most common thing people engrave these days is they put, if you have valuables, people engrave them, their driver's license number, so that it's easy to run and we know who it belongs to. So.
Okay.
Yeah, the engraving isn't used as much by people anymore, and a lot of the reason is a lot of stuff we buy is disposable. We don't keep it for as long. So
I bought an engraver a while back. I think Home Depot, like $25 or $35 or something, really cheap. It'll partially destroy what you're engraving.
Yeah, and for bicycles, there's a program called 529 Garage that. We may not necessarily always be able to bring it to Hope because there's a cost to the program, but being on your neighbors, Chilliwack is paying the cost for the program. So if you see safety fairs and stuff like that, we usually have a booth there where it's an online app. You can record your serial numbers and get a sticker with a second serial number that if your bike's stolen, you click a button on the app and lets everybody else that use the app know your bike was stolen. So little things like that. Like I said, it's an expensive program to get used, so we're not going to have it in Hope necessarily, but lean on your neighbors. If you see a safety fair at Chilliwack, come on down and get your bikes bikes registered with that.
Hope Crime Prevention Office does have engravers.
Perfect.
So if anybody's interested in coming.
There you go. Did everybody hear that? Hope Crime Prevention Office has engravers.
Free to use.
Free, that's right.
The best price in the world, free. Let me just go over and then.
This isn't going to be a very politically correct question, but I don't drive, so I take a lot of cabs. And cab drivers that I take very early in the morning, I take later on at night. You know, some of them tell me that there's a lot of new faces in town, like from week to week, there's different people that they haven't seen before. And not to profile, but that don't on first glance look like they're moving here to work or buy a house. And I've heard rumor, and I don't know whether it's something that you would know or it's for another organization to answer, that people are transferred here from other communities to come to Hope.
I think that's become urban legends because it was reported in the newspaper. I haven't been told because no one's going to call the police and say, hey, we transferred in somebody from Surrey. I know that made the paper for somebody that went from Surrey to Chilliwack. Is it happening here? I don't know. But does that necessitate that
It's
person-
happening in Chilliwack.
And I'll tell you a story, just as to, we're sitting, as Karol identified, that before our shift starts, we have a watch briefing, and we share information just as to what happened the shift before, and we're making sure the members are all gonna be focused on going in a specific direction. And part of that sharing is when we get people that report as missing. We treat that very seriously, if someone is not where they're supposed to be. So we have a youth center in Chilliwack, Cyrus Center. Has everybody heard that term before? It's a good facility. It looks after kids that are out on the street. It gives them a place to go to be safe, and food and shelter, that sort of thing. So we had a young lady who reported missing from Cyrus Center, and the watch commander is reading this and says she's originally from Maple Ridge. And he said, well, how did she get here? So on occasion, we have police officers from other areas, other detachments, as said before, who live in Chilliwack. And sometimes when we are short on a shift, as is Karol, we bring somebody on overtime to make sure that we have enough bumps in the chair to go out and do the job. So this police officer from Maple Ridge puts up and says, oh, I know she's not here, I brought her here. Everybody kind of looked at him like, why did you bring her here? And now we have to investigate that because she's missing here. And he's, well, she got kicked out of her house in Maple Ridge, and he phoned the youth services line. There was no place for her in Maple Ridge. There was no place for her in Langley. There was no place for her in Abbotsford, but Cyrus Center had it. So what's he do? He drives her to the Cyrus Center, and she's in there for 31 seconds, and she goes missing, and they report her missing. So then we got to spend a whole bunch of time as police officers investigating it. So yeah, you're right, that does happen. Yeah. There's also cabs that have brought people from Surrey Memorial Hospital discharged to a homeless center, well, to the Salvation Army in Chilliwack, and that's where they land. That's where they stayed for weeks on end before services could get them back to where all the family are supported in Surrey. So this sort of craziness does happen.
I mean, I realize that there are a lot of families moving here too, like I'm part of more of a business as well, but I just noticed, you know, the general downtown area and a little bit of surrounding areas, there's much more new faces than there ever were. And they're not moving here to buy a house on first glance.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the reality of the economy, though. And yeah, as the superintendent said, provincial agencies and regional agencies, they have that ability, if there's a spot here or there, to move patients amongst them. They do that. A lot less likely to come to Hope simply because you don't have as many facilities here. Like Karol said, patients more likely to go the other way. As far as us, the police, taking people, I am not going to tell you that it's never happened that we've had a problem person in Hope and had a conversation with them saying, where would you like to be? Kamloops? We'll get you there. I can't say that has never happened, that we haven't made a midnight run to Kamloops or put someone, God love the Greyhound when he used to be here, put him on a Greyhound in Kamloops. And I'm not going to say it's never happened that Kamloops RCMP or VPD hasn't done the exact same thing to Hope, but that's not something that happens every day. That's a one-off, once in a while. You folks are where highways meet, and that attracts people. And as it gets more expensive to live in Vancouver and to live in Surrey and to live in Langley, it gets more expensive to be homeless or marginalized on the poverty line in Vancouver and Surrey and Langley, and that does push population over the valley. There's no doubt about it.
Sir?
Just a question of interest. You say you have charges against 2 individuals from Hope for breaking and entries. I'm just wondering, are they in custody, or are they out on bail free to work at their given trade?
One was in custody. I'm not sure if he's still there. He was in custody for quite some time. He might still be there, and the other one is not in custody but doesn't live in the community right now. Again, we don't control that.
Yes, you have no control, you just have information as to.
Okay, folks, I did say 7:30. We've gone over the witching hour. I will, obviously, for those of you that want to have additional questions, by all means. For those of you that may be a little camera shy because there was a camera running, or you would prefer to talk one-on-one, you know where I work. I take a lot of calls during the course of a week from people within the Hope area. I never tire of the calls. I will answer. You may not get me at my desk that particular day, but I guarantee you I'll call back. It may be a day or two later. Please forgive me that. And I'm not the best at updating my voicemail to tell you that I'm out of the office for a week or so. I'm going to try getting better. As you can see how well I can run a laptop, it's going to take a bit, but Lord love me, I'll get there eventually. So I started with a paper and pen in this job, and it was where we're at now. And where we're moving to is policing with our cell phones, with smartphones, where everything that we'll do is going to be done on a smartphone, and then through cyberspace, somewhere up there, it'll end up at our server in our office and print off whatever reports we want. So everything will be done on a smartphone. That's where we're progressing to. We may be behind already other nations in doing that, but that's where we're going in policing in BC or across the country.
Staff Sergeant, thank you for your time for your presentation. I just wanted to share with the community that when you talked about the 13-5 split, the province has not increased the number of officers in over 20 years. That 5 has maintained the same. The local mayors in the Fraser Valley have been lobbying our Solicitor General Farnsworth for an increase in those numbers. We're not the only community that needs more officers. And I don't want the community to take this wrong. The average cost for an officer right now is $180,000 for an RCMP member. That includes salary, benefits, equipment, cost sharing with other departments down the valley. Like I comes here, we share Air Force One. Air One, the helicopter. So there's a lot of costs involved, but the average cost for all of us is $180,000 per officer. If you want more officers, we will budget for that, but each 1% increase in your property tax only generates $70,000 towards that increase in officers. So we have to get creative. We have to work together as a community. We have to lobby the province, as your mayor is doing and other mayors in the valley. You need to be proactive at your home. I'm not here to lecture you, I'm just a reminder. And Crime Stoppers, the crime prevention group, have a lot of good programs to help you with that. And they're desperate for volunteers. Our main core group is aging out. We need some 30-somethings, 40-somethings years of age to get involved in that organization. Thank you again.
So Mayor, what would you recommend we do? What would your suggestion be?
For what case?
To get another officer or to volunteer more time?
Lobby your local MLA.
Yes.
Talk to your counselors and your mayor. And I would, definitely your MLA. Jackie Taggart is very accommodating and she's available at all times. The electoral area. Dennis is here, Addison. And he's also lobbying on our behalf as well for the entire area.
Okay, thank you.
We want to make this happen. The Solicitor General, as I said, they have not moved in over 20 years, the number that they pay for.
But our taxes keep going up.
Our taxes keep going up.
Yeah.
But it's not just going to protective services, which on your budget includes fire service in town, not just police.
I got one question.
Thank you, Mark.
I can get a chance to ask.
Dennis, sorry.
I know there's a First Nation police force.
Yes.
Do you guys work with them?
Yes.
Excuse me. This area, the Fraser Valley, Upper Fraser Valley Regional Catchment Area, we've got, in the whole area, we've got 23 or 24 First Nation communities, depending on who you're talking to within the First Nations, because some of them will count themselves an independent community, some will count themselves as part of the other ones. So in that 24, we've got two nations. We've got Stolo Nations, and I call it the Eastern Fraser Valley, and I apologize, I don't want to embarrass myself or dishonor them by trying to pronounce their name. That's this Pleasant Booth right there. Fantastic community. They've been out there and talking to the leadership and some of the community members. And we look after them as well for our first responder calls for service. So in the communities, we have 7 police officers in our Indigenous policing section that are dispatched out of Chilliwack that will come out and provide what is called an enhanced policing service to three communities in the Hope area, because they're attached to a community tripartite agreement, which is an agreement they signed with the province and the federal government to provide a enhanced policing service where they'll go in and they'll do some community policing, they'll attend and support them for some of their cultural and traditional events, and they'll come in and they'll do some school talks for the kids and just to provide that police presence in the community. And then we've got the other communities that are not attached to the CTA process. So what we did in Chilliwack, we started off with one officer, Corporal Chris Goslin, who's very well known for the area here. And Chris has been out to the Eastern Fraser Valley. He's been out to all the different communities that are in the Upper Fraser Valley that are not attached to the CTAs, and speaking to them, providing them a voice, a place where they can raise concerns to him. And we're in the process of creating a kind of an agreement, and just as to, okay, we want to know just as to what your expectations are of your police service of jurisdiction, and that it's not attached to the CTA, because the CTA's communities have a letter of expectations that they put forward for the policing priorities for their community. So now when we have the 7 that attend just to those specific communities, they're licensed police officers. They will engage and get themselves involved in investigations and that sort of thing, but their primary function is just with those communities, and as according to that agreement that is signed. So there is a need from our perspective to up our game with that, but we're dealing with the federal government, we're dealing with the provincial government, and what don't they have? Money to fund those positions. So we're working with that, but we try to pick up the slack where we can, because there's, I've been doing policing for 38 years, I know there's gaps. But you know what, we have to get the people to tell us about those gaps in order for us to know what we can do about them. So with Chris doing that for the communities that are not attached to the CTAs, we're providing him with a second officer that comes from the provincial funding envelope out of Chilliwack to support all that sort of stuff. And that's kind of one of the things from a regional detachment perspective that I can do, is that I can fill some gaps in some of the areas. And as Steve was saying, when Karol has a vacancy, we have the ability within the regional detachment, okay, we go to our guys and say, okay, does anybody have an interest in deploying out to Hope, fill that spot out to Hope? And you'd be surprised, there's a lot of guys and gals that want to come out here. And that's what we do. We say, okay, we move them locally, so you don't have to go through the whole, our divisional staffing process, and it gets to be a little long and drawn out. And we do that to fill those gaps right away to support the community. So, but when you're dealing with the Indigenous communities and Indigenous policing, that's a priority for us, because there's a lot of communities out there that don't get the attention that they deserve, and they got a lot of stuff going on. So, but anyways, did I answer your question?
Yeah, sort of.
Sort of? Okay. Maybe come see me after again, like if anybody is, I know you have, it's the Hope Standard out here, I think.
Yeah.
look up at the Chilliwack progress online, and you'll see what Mayor Robb was talking about, and I think what you're talking about as well, just as to what took place last week. We had a couple MLAs from the area, a couple of regional district directors, meeting in Victoria here, having a meeting with Minister Farnworth, and you know, hey, well, the province needs to step up to the plate in the sense to providing some resources, but they're pretty quick in the sense they throw out, we give the RCMP a bucket of money, and whatever they decide to do with that bucket of money, it's to provide provincial policing resources, well, that's up to them. Well, that bucket of money is getting pretty small, you know, and again, it's like, I'll use myself as an example. You know, I live, the police jurisdiction for where I live, Agassiz Community Police Officer Swans. And I live in the area of Popcom, so I look at my property taxes, and it breaks it down just as to how much you pay for school policing. Where I live, I pay $93 a year. It went down 75 cents from last year. I don't know how it went down, but it went down. So I pay $93 a year for policing. But that's not even my insurance deductible when I lost my chainsaw. Like, I got broken into, like, I lost my chainsaw. Like $93, I'm certainly more prepared from my perspective, and I know I'm working, some people are on fixed incomes, but you know, like, they need to have a look from the regional district or provincial aspects as to how they figure out just as to how that works. I know it's different in the city of Chilliwack. These guys live in the city of Chilliwack, just as to what they pay. I'm not sure.
Only about 8 times.
Yeah, well, but you know, it's a concern, and it really is. And you know, I know there's some people that are heading out. Folks, I just want to thank you for coming out and being a part of this, and the full room like this is really refreshing. It shows that there's people in the community that care and they want to have a conversation with their police force, police officers, and you know, it's we need to hear from you. And this is what I really want to thank Karol for putting this together, the Coffee with a Cop at Blue Moose. And the folks at the Blue Moose, like, wow, they hosted us, and you know, really appreciate that, because it gives, you know, a one-on-one opportunity to talk to the police, and you know, like, we like to get into the different community stuff, but we need, you know what, you need to talk to your police officers. You know, and like I was saying before, this guy is probably one of the only guys that I know as a detachment commander that walks around the community in the summertime in his red serve, greeting tourists that are coming in on different buses for whatever, they're stopping in the community. I don't know what, his picture is in so many different countries in the world right now. I don't know, but you know what? He's engaged in his community, and you know, he's out there talking to people, and you know what? He's got to get out and make that contact and have that conversation, and sooner than later. And again, I got to emphasize that something is not going right. We need to know about it when it's not going right, not 2 weeks later, 2 months later, because we still need to know about it, but still, you know, we can fix it right away and make sure it doesn't happen again. That's important. So again, thank you very much for coming, and I know that we're over the time here, so I know I'll hang around a little bit, Steve will hang around a little bit, so if anybody wants to come up and have an individual conversation, please do, and again, thanks very much for coming.
Thank you.